Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a first look at a brand new Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, Grapploct. Grapploct evolves from Clobbopus, which can be encountered in the wild because the global challenge of doing 10 million max battles was finally completed. Grapploct is a pure fighting type Pokemon with the moveset of Waterfall, Superpower, and Ice Punch. And honestly, at first glance, that moveset does not inspire a lot of confidence. So I'm pairing it up with a strong Ultra League Metacore of Shadow Malamar and Corviknight to try and help support it. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at Grapploct in some Ultra League practice battles. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty nice lead, Shadow Malamar into Jellicent. Malamar is able to hit for big super effective damage with foul play, but Jellicent is such a monster in the Ultra League that Jellicent actually makes this matchup very, very close. Jellicent is going to be unleashing Shadow Ball. Malamar survives, but now Malamar is already approaching red HP. Malamar going to farm up, firing off the foul play right before they're able to make it to their Surf. Foul play is going to be shielded, and my opponent will immediately under-tap the Surf. My Malamar is very, very low. I do want to try and hold on to this energy in case I need it for later, so I'm going to bank the energy, switch into Corviknight, and get the catch of the Surf. Corviknight more than happy to absorb a Surf, and my opponent now sends out Licky. This is a tricky matchup for Corviknight because Licky is just so incredibly bulky. Licky is going to be firing off the Shadow Ball, and I decide to go for a bit of a risk. I'm going for the Air Cutter, 30% chance at an attack boost, and I think I'll need it to have a chance in this game, and the gamble pays off as I get the Air Cutter boost. Now suddenly my payback is a lot more threatening. Payback is going to land big damage onto the Licky, and Licky will be firing back with the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball lands. Can I hang on and make it to the Air Cutter? Yes, I can, but my opponent with a sensational catch. They switch into the Jellicent, and Jellicent absorbs that damage. Back in comes Licky does get the farm down, and in comes Grapploct. Grapploct not getting same type attack bonus on its Waterfall, so Waterfalls are not doing a whole lot. Grapploct absorbs the Shadow Ball, gets that Waterfall farm down in the back. That's not what I was hoping to see. It's Tinkaton. Grapploct farming up as much as possible, building up to the back-to-back superpowers. I do have a move loaded on the Malamar as well, so I throw the superpower, switch into the Malamar, and combo with superpower number 2. That's going to be shielded. My opponent is going to get the farm down. Back in comes Grapploct. The Waterfall goes through, and my opponent has back-to-back bulldozes. This means I have to throw the superpower here and pray that it's enough to knock out. Grapploct, superpower, KOs the Tinkaton, and somehow we're able to escape with a Game 1 win. Moving into the next match, we get up a pretty nice lead, Shadow Malamar into Primeape. My opponent is going to be safe switching into Licky, and they bank a massive amount of energy on the Primeape. I don't have a great check to Licky in the back, so I'm just going to stay in and fire off this energy with the Shadow Malamar. Superpower number 1 did big damage. Superpower number 2 takes the knockout. Down goes Licky. In comes Primeape. I was looking at trying to catch, but unfortunately I didn't click my screen in fast enough time, and unfortunately that Rage Fist will land. But now I can send in the Corviknight. Corviknight will fire off Air Cutter. Air Cutter is going to be grabbing a shield, and I do get the Air Cutter boost. The boost luck was honestly pretty good in these battles. My opponent will fire off another Rage Fist, continuing to ramp up this Primeape more and more. I have to start shielding something, so I am going to be putting up the shield. These sand attacks are adding up quite a bit. My goodness, these karate chops are really starting to shred as well. The Air Cutter is going to get the final shield. My opponent fully committing to this boosted Primeape, and I'm just going to be letting the Corviknight go. Corviknight barely hangs on. In comes Malamar. Malamar Psywaves just missed the knockout, but I have a Grapploct and a shield, and that's going to be what I rely on to take home this win. I'm going to be waiting down the timer for a little bit, and in the back, they have Toucannon. Toucannon is a bit of a problem. Ice Punch is super effective, but I assume Superpower will do more. Superpower rocks the Toucannon. Toucannon barely able to hang on, and I believe they are one off the back-to-back Drill Pecks. So the Waterfall damage takes the knockout. They do not get their second charge attack. We Waterfall down the Primeape and take the win. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Shadow Malamar into Clefable. I'm going to try and catch on 7 onto Corviknight, but my opponent reads me like a book, and instead they just throw a Meteor Mash on 6. This still does a ton of damage. I'm going to be bailing out of this matchup, sending in the Corviknight, and my opponent responds with Spiritomb. Spiritomb will be able to apply consistent debuffs with Rock Tomb. I go for the Air Cutter, fishing for the boost, and I did mention my boost luck was pretty good in these battles, and I do get the boost. This will help keep me at even attack once my opponent puts that debuff back on. And now I will fire off the air cutter. I'm testing my luck. Can we get another air cutter boost? Not this time. If I got another boost, I could have knocked out with an air cutter, but since I didn't, I'm forced to reach all the way for a payback to knock out the Spiritomb before they make their Shadow Ball. In the back, they have Runerigus, and this is a problem. Well, not the Runerigus, but the fact that my opponent still has a Fable. I farm up a ton of energy, bait with the air cutter, snipe with the foul play on Malamar. This will not knock out, but it's going to be getting my opponent very, very low. They're going to put up the shield. In comes Clefable. Clefable is not going to throw its energy. And instead, it looks like they're just going to absorb this superpower and go for a full farm down. Clefable is now absolutely loaded. I bring in the Corviknight just to force them to throw energy, and it's all up to Grapploct. 2-shield Grapploct versus the world. Come on, Grapploct. I need you to clutch this endgame. I don't think they're going to Moonblast. I call the bait. It's a Meteor Mash, and I get absolutely rocked. Grapploct. Oh, no. And now I'm going to have to shield Rock Tombs. My opponent is just going to apply debuff after debuff, and this is where not having same type attack bonus on its charge attacks is just so bad on Grapploct. I'm hitting for super effective, but I'm just not doing any kind of damage. At this point, I realize even up 2 shields, I can never win this game, so I no-shield the Rock Tomb and unfortunately take the loss. We move to the next match, leading Shadow Malamar into Satitan. This matchup can get a little bit uncomfortable if Malamar gets its superpower shielded. Satitan will fire off Icicle Spear that does do some pretty significant damage, and I decide to not go for the bait. I'm just full sending. If they shield, I'll pivot out. Superpower gets through the shield, and my opponent gets KO'd by the Psywave, denying their second Icicle Spear. In comes Feraligatr, but I'm already at 2 more superpowers. The first is going to land, the second is going to be putting them deep into the red HP. And Malamar has almost knocked out 2 whole Pokemon by itself. My opponent does not want that to happen, so they will be putting up the shield on Feraligatr. But I just generated such a huge advantage with the Malamar that now I can bring Grapploct. Grapploct, oh my goodness. It just cannot do any damage to save its life. We take huge damage from the Hydro Cannon. We can't really do any damage back, and in the back, they have Tentacruel. Tentacruel does not get the Scald debuff, so a bit of good luck, again, continues to go my way, which with a Grapploct on the team is probably very good. Payback does get shielded, my opponent realizing it was too risky for me to go for a bait, but they are able to correctly put up a shield. Scald is going to land, this time not so lucky, there's the debuff, and my opponent sends in the Shadow Feraligatr. Feraligatr, Hydro Cannon is going to be getting a shield, and I'm going to look to farm up more energy and then go for the Air Cutter. At -1, Air Cutter should not knock out. It will give me just a little bit of extra farm, but I believe I am still debuffed. So I'm going to farm up and then switch when they get the Scald and get the catch onto the Grapploct. Unfortunately, Grapploct is basically just a damage sponge in this game. It absorbed a Hydro Cannon, then it absorbed a Scald as well. And that's going to allow the Corviknight Malamar duo to just fully 2v3. We even got a completely unnecessary Air Cutter boost. The payback would have knocked out anyway, but we get a little bit of insult to injury as we take the win. Bit of a difficult lead in the next match, Shadow Malamar into Corviknight. I'm going to throw my energy right before they're able to make it to their payback. Foul Play will still do some pretty nice neutral damage, even against the very bulky Corviknight. I know that I do survive a payback, so I decide to let it go, and I call the Air Cutter bait, but my happiness is short-lived as there is the boost. This is my karma. I got a lot of boosts earlier, now it's my opponent's turn, and they get back-to-back boosts. I throw the superpower. Oh my goodness, they're reading me like a book. A sensational catch, catching superpower onto Florges. I throw 2 Psywaves because I don't want to take more than 1 Fairy Wind on that Malamar, and then I send in the Corviknight. Unfortunately, this is a matchup that Corviknight is not able to win. This is basically just a defensive play for me, because I know at the very least my opponent cannot generate a lot of damage in this matchup either. So it's basically just to stall out the mid game, reset some debuffs, and then hopefully Grapploct will be able to put in work versus whatever they have in the back. I'm going to be firing off yet another Air Cutter. Air Cutter, not going to do basically anything. My opponent should look to switch, and they do. In comes Corviknight. I send in the Malamar, and I fire off the Superpower. Superpower into the Corviknight is going to be no-shielded, and it's a CMP tie, the best case scenario. My opponent undercharges the Air Cutter. That's going to give them a farm down, and I'm going to look to farm down with Corviknight. My opponent realizes they're not getting the payback, so they will just settle for the Air Cutter damage. Air Cutter gets another boost, and I'm able to get that farm. I exit with a massive amount of energy. In the back is Guzzlord, and this is a big problem. Normally, if you have a fighting type and they have a Guzzlord in the back, you're actually pretty happy. But unfortunately, I have Waterfall as the fast move. Grapploct does not get a good fighting fast move. One good thing for me is I did actually get a boost on the first air cutter, so suddenly the air cutter damage is not quite as bad as it typically is. And look at the air cutter spam, Corviknight putting on an absolute clinic. I do want to try and catch a brutal swing here, but I was expecting my opponent to do one in the move, but they ended up just under tapping. Brutal swing will take the knockout, and I actually see a path forward in this game. It involves fully waterfalling down with Grapploct. Grapploct will put up the shield. Opponent is going to go for the brutal swing bait, and with that bait, this is now very tough. I'm going to call it, because if they double bait, they can make a sludge bomb, but they don't. They full send the Dragon Claw, and that might do me. I can't afford to shield. Florges has a charge attack banked. I have to let this go. Brutal swing lands. The waterfall knocks out. Wait. If I survive this Fairy Wind, I win the game. I have back-to-back Ice Punches. Ice Punch is shielded, but as the timer counts down to 0, unfortunately, we do not survive. We move to the next match, Shadow Malamar into Shadow Scizor. Now this matchup, ideally I'd love to grab a shield and try and get a catch of a Trailblaze onto my Corviknight. So I'm going to throw 2 Psy Waves, go for the catch, but my opponent shows great patience. The good news for me, however, is they don't have a hard counter to the Corviknight. They send in Credilli, and Credilli does do pretty well there, but I'm not being met with like a Talonflame or something catastrophic. They're going to be spamming out Rock Tombs, and I can actually use that to my advantage. They do have a pacing advantage in this matchup, and they have high incentive to actually throw the charge attack right away. So I'm more than happy just to bank a ton of energy and then look to send in Malamar when the switch timer's up. My opponent pivots back into the Shadow Scizor, and I think I survive a Night Slash. I know shield Night Slash lands, it does not take the knockout, and I will decide to put up the shield. If my opponent double shields the Scizor, then I can just KO them with the P-back that I have banked. So my opponent is kind of forced to no shield here. And they do. They will get knocked out. In the back is Shadow Dusknoir. Awful for Grapploct, but I have a ton of energy stored on the Corviknight. This is a very risky bait. Going for the air cutter. The bait pays off. We get the boost and the payback, and this is going to be good night, Dusknoir. Payback takes the knockout. All that's left is that Credilli, and I get to bring in Grapploct. Grapploct dancing on him a little bit. Oh my goodness, Grapploct. Grapploct gonna make it to the Ice Punch. Ice Punch, super effective damage. Grapploct didn't have to do much in this game, but it takes the final knockout and secures the win. Hopping to the final match, we're saving the spiciest practice battle for last. Shadow Malamar into Obstagoon. Obstagoon farms up past the Night Slash. The reason why you don't really see Obstagoon much anymore is because it has really, really bad pacing. I shield what I think is a Night Slash, and I end up shielding an Obstruct. And that feels awful. I foul play bait. They call the bait, and everything that could go wrong is going wrong in this final game. The only thing I still have going for me in this moment is that my opponent is using an Obstagoon. An Obstagoon, unfortunately, is a shell of its former self. Night Slash from the Obstagoon will be shielded, and I decide I am not baiting again. I need to guarantee the final shield or take the knockout. Superpower does connect, taking the KO, and down goes the Obstagoon. My opponent now sends in a Gothitelle. Okay, they are bringing out the spice. Oh my goodness. Confusion Gothitelle. Gothitelle, I believe, has Rock Slide as its coverage move. It will go for the Rock Slide, and I'm going to look to take the knockout with Payback. I assume Gothitelle isn't particularly tanky. I haven't played it much, though. They actually live that. I stand corrected. They bank energy, and it's Lunatone in the back. Look at the spice. We have Obstagoon double Psychic. You love to see it. Hopefully this team never sees a Pangoro, because Pangoro would be absolutely catastrophic. Weather Ball Rock is not going to do much here. They fire off the Weather Ball. They get to Weather Ball number 2, and this is going to be knocking out the Corviknight, but luckily I still have the Shadow Malamar. If I bring in the Malamar, Malamar is going to barely outpace, make it to the foul play, and this will be devastating damage onto Lunatone. Lunatone is able to hang on, make it a last-second charge attack, but from here, I mean, Grapploct really didn't have to do anything in this game. I can just bring in the Grapploct and waterfall everything down. Opponent brings in the Gothitelle. Gothitelle, Rock Slide, I mean, it's resisted. It's not going to do much. Oh, it's a Psychic, but Grapploct hangs on. The most stressful spice battle probably of my entire life, but we're somehow able to escape with a win. All in all, Grapploct is a Pokemon that is an incredibly cool design, but unfortunately, its moveset translates very poorly from the main series over to Pokemon Go. It doesn't get a good fighting fast move in the main series, or at the very least, a good move in the main series that would translate to a fighting fast move in Go, and that really holds it back. Waterfall and I believe Mudshot are basically its best options. It doesn't currently learn Mudshot and Go, but even with Mudshot, it still wouldn't be meaningfully improved. So, unfortunately, it's a Pokemon where until it learns new moves in the main series, potentially in a future generation, then for now, unfortunately, it's not going to be able to do a whole lot in Go, just because Go doesn't really have any good moves that can translate from its main series moveset. So, a pretty cool Pokemon to get in your Pokedex. I really like the design of Fighting Octopus, but unfortunately, as far as competitive viability goes, Grapploct is about as far away from competitive viability as a Pokemon could ever hope to be. Typically, I like to end some of these showcases by saying, you know what, it's one move away. Grapploct really might be 3 moves away, and unfortunately, it can't even learn better moves to help get it closer to meta contention. So, for now, it's definitely just a Pokemon that you can get in your decks and evolve. Could be a fun, like, Auto-Rect or Spice Pokemon, but just know, as with a lot of these games, if you're going to get wins with Grapploct, it is going to be because the 2 Pokemon on the team with Grapploct basically 2v3'd. I think the only game where Grapploct was like a serious contender and dealing some damage was actually that first game against the Tinkaton, because those superpowers did do some pretty substantial neutral damage. Because XL Tinkaton is very, very bulky in the Ultra League. I was fully expecting to lose that endgame. I knew that I could make 3 superpowers, but I just didn't think that would be enough. So the fact that Grapploct was actually able to clutch there, that was definitely the best thing Grapploct did all day. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And an extra special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.